Hey everybody, it's Brian. Before I did this Seahawks stuff full time, I worked as a manager and senior leader, so I know how lonely it can be to try to find someone you trust to talk through people issues, org issues, process issues as you try to lead an organization. Ryan Cleveland of RyanCleveland.com is someone I trust to have those conversations with. He specializes in working with CEOs and business owners, and you can get a complimentary free discovery session to see if it's a good fit for you. Just go to RyanCleveland.com to sign up and start now. Hello, welcome to another episode of Real Hawk Talk. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and now Blue Sky at Hawk Blogger. I'm looking forward to tonight. And it honestly has nothing to do with the Seahawks. There's some Seahawks stuff I absolutely want to talk about, but I am eager to hang out with my good buddies, Evan Hill at Evan Hill HB, Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons. We tried to get the whole quartet, Nathan Ernst, on as well, but he's a little under the weather, so I'll settle for the trio. Dana O'Gorman is traveling the world, living her best life. So it's just the boys tonight, and that's okay. I got to start with the newest member of the Seahawks community. Mike Macdonald has his first child with his wife, Stephanie, last night. If you did not hear about it, pretty cool to have that experience. I cannot imagine what that's like to go on during an NFL season. And if you didn't hear, the name is Jack David Macdonald. JDM is your new Pacific Northwest resident. Congrats to Coach. And he seemed, when I saw him today, a little tired, but seemed pretty good. Evan at Evan Hill HB on Twitter and Blue Sky. How are you doing, my friend? You ready for me to come to Arizona this week?
I am so excited to see you for drinks on Saturday and to wave at you in envy at the press box that you'll be in while I will be surrounded by Cardinals fans. And Jeff, I am so utterly emotionally devastated that you will not be there, but we'll miss you. So I'm doing well. And by the way, quick note on the name, Mike Macdonald is for his kid, Jack Mac.
Jack Mac
rings off the tongue, it rolls off the tongue really well. So I think that's a good choice for Mike Mac. Congrats to him.
I think Jack's a pretty solid name. I think you can't go wrong with Jack. Speaking of J's and big J's, Jeff Simmons, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Couple things going on over here. I'm still pretty rattled that I can't come out and meet you guys this week. I sent Evan a picture of my driveway today, and it's covered in freaking snow. So it just started snowing here this morning, and I am depressed about it. And man, I don't know if a lot of people, our listeners, all know, but me and Mike Macdonald have some things to relate about. I think me and Mike are the same age, if that's correct. I think we're the same age, and yeah, we're expecting next month. So I might need to take pick his brain a little bit. I like the name choice. I like the name. It sounds like a linebacker. Jack Macdonald.
It does.
It does.
That's his pet position. It seems like Jack is a linebacker name. So I can't relate what it's like coaching. I've heard from everyone I can talk to about what your first kid is like, but I can't imagine the next day being like, we got to coach the most important game of the season. Oh my God.
You guys realize there is a even money chance that we will still be doing this show when that kid's old enough to enter the draft. It's not crazy. It's not crazy to think that that's possible. And for people that didn't know, I mean, Jeff Simmons going to become a dad. Evan,
I love it.
What is Jeff as a dad going to be like? Do you have a mental picture of what that's going to be?
Jeff, I do not think you're going to be like, excuse me. I don't think you're going to be like the helicopter parent. My perception is that you're going to be the parent that kind of lets mistakes happen organically, and you'll provide decent guardrails, I think, within reason. But my perception is that you're going to be the parent that sort of lets your child make mistakes, makes stupid decisions, that sort of thing. Is my perception like correct mentally?
I think so, but like it's hard to say. I don't know what I'm going to be like.
That was like the most like thoughtful and non smartass response. I so much more than I would have expected. My first thought is that Jeff's kid is almost certainly going to have ADHD. I'm sorry to tell you, because he is gonna be sitting on Jeff's lap with 75 screens, watching every sporting event and being like, okay, I cannot focus, but he's gonna change the world because he's gonna be able to like consume information like nobody can, just like his pop. And that was my first thought, to be honest. Is this kid's gonna consume a lot of information on his dad's lap.
Jeff, are you gonna travel to Scottsdale near the birth date and just like get that kid some U.S. citizenship and somehow finagle your way into a relocation? Is this part of a master plan?
I'll say this. There's a rule in my house right now. I'm only allowed to talk about moving to Scottsdale once a day. She's like, I can't listen to you talk about this every hour. You have to use it wisely once a day. So let's say that's been discussed many times.
That's funny.
Well, we are certainly all in the Hawk Blogger community, the Real Hawk Talk community, eager to add another Seahawk fan to the mix. So can't wait for Jeff. And as much as we're sorry to not have him here next week, it is for the best possible reason. So we will certainly raise a glass to you, my friend, and cannot wait till the big day when it comes for you. And it will be coming sooner than you think. So there's a bunch of things I wanted to chat with you guys about, most of them Seahawks related. But there was another thing that random thing that came to mind that I wanted to ask you guys. So once a year, I allow myself to buy eggnog. I love eggnog. And I wanted to know, like, it is a very divisive thing to drink. And so I want to know, Evan, I can tell already, what is your take on eggnog?
Why would you drink eggnog? Like what like don't you like consuming things that like taste good? Like why are you drinking like I don't even know what eggnog is made of. Isn't it like egg and like milk? Like isn't that the combination or is it something else?
I don't really know. Okay. But I know I love the way it tastes. I could just chug like a pint of eggnog. Like I really like eggnog. So Jeff, eggnog? do you like? Do they even do eggnog in Canada? Is that a thing up there?
They do, but people in my neck of the woods don't tend to touch that stuff. So I don't want to get too deep into what that means. But
what? So Google fact checking on the pod live right now. Yeah. What is eggnog made of? Google AI, whatever Gemini or whatever it's called. Eggnog is made with eggs, milk, or cream, sugar. Okay, I like the sugar edition. I'm cool with that. And spices and sometimes alcohol. Is it spiked?
Often, most of the time.
Really?
Okay, so you're just drinking alcohol.
No, I'm drinking a non-alcoholic version.
But when people get eggnog, like
a lot of people get eggnog with it's spiked. Yeah, for sure.
So this is just an excuse to drink alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah. For most people. Yeah. But like, here's the thing is I can very much understand why people would be grossed out by eggnog. Like the concept is gross. When I first heard about it, it was gross. Then I tasted it and it's so good. But here's the thing. You said spices. Yeah. That automatically gets your palate off. You cannot handle it. Like I should have known from the beginning that was the case, but I was curious. So we've got that answered. The chat, by the way, there's a lot of people that are all in on eggnog.
Isn't it like a very like thick texture though? Like
it is thick. It's creamy. It's creamy. Like, did you like milk though, right?
I love milk, but just have a glass of milk. Just have a glass of milk then.
No, but like this is milk with like, and I assume you like cream if you like milk.
Of course I love cream.
Yeah, so this is like sweetened it's so good, dude. Like, it's so good. I've got it sitting in my fridge. I'm going to have a glass. I'm going to get a nice little mustache, a little eggnog mustache for you before the show's over. We've got a bunch of super chats already wait, what?
Real quick. We're going to be at a bar together.
Yes.
On Saturday night.
Yes.
Is there like an eggnog spiked alcoholic cocktail that I could
just eggnog
order?
Like, you can order, we can probably order it. Well, let's see if we can make that happen.
Okay, we should test this. We should test this.
Okay.
Like, do you drink White Russians?
Not really.
They're a little, yeah. Like, I don't do eggnog or White Russian drinks. They're very heavy, man. But yeah, I'm not a big drinker at this point, so I can probably do one of those. Just won't be drinking a lot. So we've already got super chats flowing in, especially with all this info. And then we'll get to our first official topic. Sovereign Magic, who's been a member for 2 months, says, let's go Hawks. Let's take the West this Sunday. Thank you for that. And thanks for being a member. Nell God 206 says, for all three of you, yes or no only, extend Geno. Well, we're going to get back to that. So I will save that for a little bit later. These are all too serious. These are all getting right into Seahawks stuff. I'm not ready for it. Here's one from Jose Rodriguez. He says, cheers to Coach and to Jeff. Cheers for sure. Nell God back with, oh my God, usually hate eggnog, but tried the Southern Comfort vanilla eggnog from Safeway, and it was so good. So Southern Comfort vanilla eggnog. We'll have to think about that, Evan. All right. So the first topic I want to talk to you guys about has nothing to do with the Seahawks directly. It has to do, you talked about using AI to learn about eggnog, Evan. AI on Twitter sucks. It's so bad.
It's terrible.
It summarizes things terribly, but
so bad.
It got my attention with the notice that the Bears were potentially preparing a big package deal to try to trade for Kyle Shanahan. Turns out that was based off of just random Mike Florio talking with like Colin Cowherd, like throwing shit against the wall. Like it was based off of nothing. But my question for you too, should Seahawks fans want Kyle Shanahan to be traded, or should they want him to stay? Now, Jeff, I'm going to give you a little bit of thought here, like give you a second to percolate on this, because if he was to be traded, I think you could talk about the minimum you get in return is a first and a second. I think it's possible you could command 2 firsts for Kyle Shanahan. And if that was the case, I think there's also a chance you could talk about trading Brock Purdy, get another first, maybe another first and second. You could end up with 3 firsts, a second, and then get a new coach. So do you think that the 49ers would be better off with Kyle Shanahan, or do you think that they'd be better off brokering a deal like this?
I have a pretty aggressive, firm opinion on this, but Jeff,
you go. I want to hear you go.
I really do think like every Seattle fan should be rooting for Kyle Shanahan to leave the Niners. Frankly, I don't think the chances, like if you look at if you talk about AI and some magic math you wanted to pull out of the sky, the chances that San Francisco or Santa Clara is able to replicate his coaching abilities and what he brings to the table. Yes, it's been a disappointing year, but he's also been one of the most successful coaches in franchise history and also brought the team to 2 Super Bowls. So it's like a pretty big deal, right? Like offensively, schematically, there's no doubt he knows how to execute things. Yes, he comes up short in final moments, but that's still better than 99% of the NFL. Let's not forget that. So I think if you're a Seahawks fan, you want Kyle Shanahan to leave the Niners. But I'll go on and add this. If you're also a Seahawks fan, you want the Niners to retain Brock Purdy and pay him $60+ million a year. I feel very confident in that. Like if you're rooting for what gives Seattle the highest chances of success to, compete and win the division over the next several years or over the next decade, whatever it is, you want Kyle Shanahan out of San Francisco. So 49er fans might feel a little bit differently, to be quite honest with you, but I think it's really like the more rational approach I take.
But Jeff, I'm getting to you on this. Let's be really clear. If there's a fan base that doesn't know fuck all about football, it is the 49er fan base. Like,
yeah,
it is a bunch of idiots that are 49ers fans. And like the fact that so many of them are rooting for Kyle Shanahan to get fired just proves that point. I mean, I don't think there's any Seahawks fan that knows anything about football that's like, oh, yeah, let's keep one of the best coaches in the NFL in the division. Like every Seahawks fan's hoping that they make that mistake. Jeff, I assume you're in that bucket.
Yeah. If I'm the Niners, there's no way I'm trading Kyle Shanahan. I can tell you, I think more so than any other sport, we can talk about quarterbacks. Obviously, they mean more than anything. But the great coach in football means so much to the success of your team. The Raiders had John Gruden, who was not a schematic mastermind. They traded him for 2 first-round picks. You know how many times the Raiders have made the playoffs since they were in the Super Bowl? Once. My brother's a Raiders fan. So we always talk about how screwed up the Seahawks fans are and things like that. My brother's like, I haven't made the playoffs since I've been alive, basically. The Saints traded Sean Payton away. Look what they've done. And I think Kyle is a far better coach than the two of them. Again, we talk about play calling on coaches and offensive masterminds, and you kind of see it. Look how good of a job Mike McDonald's doing right now. He's as good as a coaching hire they could have made. But if Ryan Grubb continues on the pace they're on, what's going to happen? The Seahawks have to enter that bleak thing, is they're going to have to go into that offensive coordinator mode. Who's their next offensive coordinator? If they hit the right one, he might be gone the next year. So the Niners have something. Yeah, Shanahan does have his flaws, but he is brilliant. I think there's no more like indicator of success than having consistent offensives. And what he can do to elevate quarterbacks, he brought freaking Jimmy Garoppolo. And look at Garoppolo. This is what drove me crazy about David Lombardi is he's like, look at the EPA of Jimmy Garoppolo and all this stuff. And it's like, you don't think that's because of the offense he's in? And Garoppolo leaves San Francisco and becomes a piece of shit. Brock Purdy doesn't have the Avengers. What's happened? He's just a dude. And I think Kyle elevates those guys so much. So, yeah, they can get draft picks. We saw the Raiders get 2 first-round picks for John Gruden. But I don't think they can replace them. Like, they lost Jim Harbaugh. What happened? They hired Jim freaking Tom Sula. So, and Chip Kelly, who lasted a year. So if they want to go out and let Jed York run the franchise and try to find another coach, go ahead. I know they can get draft picks and all, but I saw a tweet today with their last 5 first picks in the draft. They don't look too good. So, look, I think the great coach in football is more value. Like, look what Jim Harbaugh's done to the Chargers. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's sustainable, but it's just, to me, that's obviously we learned in the Brady Belichick thing that the quarterback means more, but the great head coach, I think, means everything. And you see what's happened to the Seahawks defense is a great example too.
Yeah, there is part of me just as a football fan that likes the idea of Shanahan getting married with Caleb Williams. Like, that would be fun to see. He's never had a quarterback with that much talent, but I don't know, honestly. I can tell you with some certainty, Kyle Shanahan was not a Russell Wilson guy. He does not like quarterbacks that play off script. And that's what Caleb Williams does. So I don't know if everyone would just assume Caleb Williams is this uber talented guy. It'd be a great marriage with a great offensive mind. I don't know if they'd be good together, but it certainly would be a lot more entertaining than what Caleb Williams has been put through this year. Part of the reason I bring this up is because I think it's an interesting topic. Part of the reason I bring this up is Evan, very timely. So not everybody remembers. Evan, you made a little bet to start this year that the Seahawks would win the division. You almost, we almost got you considered it, making the bet that the Seahawks would win the division and the Niners would finish last. Do you realize how much money you would have made if that comes true? Like, that would have been an insane bet.
We should have pulled the text screenshots. We should at some point, because I remember the odds for like the order I was selecting, and I remember I think I had the Cardinals. Was it the 49ers that I had 4th, and the Rams or Cardinals? Yeah, the Rams and Cardinals I couldn't select 2 or 3 on. And I think I was giving the edge to the Rams. I really was. But I settled with like the safe conservative bet and just placed, I think it was like 100 or 150 on Seahawks to win the division, plus 750. But by the way, I posted that screenshot as a reminder like a couple of weeks ago, and somebody responded, I don't know if you saw this on my timeline, with their own screenshot that put down 2,500 for the Seahawks to win the division with a payout of like 18K. Okay.
Holy shit.
Yes. And this guy has like no other posts at all. Okay. And he shares like 2 betting screenshots with me. And I'm like, somebody has too much money to throw around when we're talking that type of money. So yeah, I'm feeling good right now, but it kind of goes into this game on Sunday. Like this feels like a must-win game Sunday for the division for Seattle. Like it has massive implications on the playoff odds and who wins the division. Like if Seattle doesn't win this game, and if you look at the remaining schedule for the Cardinals, it's very winnable for them. There's a couple division opponents. They play the Panthers. I know the Panthers have been playing well, blah, 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 blah. But it feels like if Seattle wants to make a playoff run and if they want to win the division, this is a big, big game. They have to win it. So, yes, that's how I feel.
Jeff, I mean, it is so enjoyable not only seeing the Seahawks kind of step forward, but seeing the 49ers recede. So I know you feel that way. And one of the things I want to ask you before we'll get into like deep Seahawks stuff here in a second, but I want you guys to think about this. And Evan, listen, because I know you're multitasking right now. Offense, defense, right? Each side of the ball. I want you guys to think about that for each team in the division. Seahawks offense, Seahawks defense, 49ers offense, all the way through. Which is the best unit in the NFC West right now? If you could pick one group in the NFC West of all of those groups, which do you think is the best right now?
I don't think it's a question right now. I think it's Seattle's defense. I really do.
Jeff, who do you think's in the conversation at least?
I think I know where you're going with this, but Arizona's defense the last month has been in there.
Yes.
They're in the conversation too. I've got some numbers to share with you guys. Different numbers than what I shared on First Look this morning. But where would you go? Where would you say is the best unit right now in the division?
I would take the Seahawks defense too. I just think their talent level's higher than Arizona. And if you want to talk about some crazy Evan predictions, I saw some couple screenshots earlier. I think it was Charles McDonald, 4 Verts, was like, put out your craziest prediction. Evan's like, the 49ers are going to finish last in the division. And they're like, some guys are like, come on, dude, stop. And then Evan responded, I don't know how I saw this today. And he writes why he thought they were going to finish last. Dude, he hit on everything. It's actually pretty freaking crazy. Like, he's like, they're going to be injured. They're going to have like bad vibes. It was like, he wrote like 6 answers in there. And he was right. It was actually pretty ridiculous.
I will read it for you since you brought it up, and there's no other way for me to be humble about it unless you do it. So, quote unquote, 12/29 on September 4th, 2024, with 41 responses of me getting flamed by the Bang Bang Gang. Okay. Massive defensive regression. Greenlaw, Hufanga, and Floyd all injured. Downgraded defensive line. Purdy interception luck regression. True. Older injury issues at play. It's very much possible.
I'll say this. Evan has had the best predictions of all of us year in, year out.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty wild given how bizarre most of his worldviews are that we entertain on this show. He is frigging nailed the Seahawks year in, year out.
You know what? I'm a vibes guy. You guys are the rational minds in this room, but I'm a vibes guy, and I can read the vibes. And the vibes are bad in San Francisco right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, you've absolutely nailed it. And I think part of the reason I was asking about this best unit in the NFC West right now is the vibes are pretty damn good for the Seahawks defense. When I looked at DVOA from weeks 10 on, they don't cut it at week 9, so I couldn't really do that. But the Seahawks defense is 5th in the NFL in DVOA over that period of time. The Cardinals defense is 6th. So they're like right there, neck and neck with the Seahawks defense in that period of time. The highest ranked unit in the division over that period of time, the Cardinals offense is ranked 4th. And that's with the 6-point game against the Seahawks. That shocked me because I wouldn't pick the Cardinals offense over the Seahawks defense. Would you?
No.
No, they got owned by them.
No.
But I think I'm going to say that's a flawed sample size. They played some very timely opponents. They played the Bears right after the Hail Mary, right before Shane Waldron got fired. That team, and then you saw what happened in their locker room. And they beat them like 29-3. They just ran all over them. And Montez Sweat didn't even play. And then they played the Jets where it was just like a total shit show. It was one of those games where like Rodgers was injured and they were missing some guys, and it was just like it was a shit show. And then last week they were okay, and then they played the Seahawks and got stomped. So I think that a lot of those numbers are propped up by those two games where they did look dominant.
Did you guys watch the game against the Vikings? The Cardinals game against the Vikings?
I caught the highlights.
I had it on, but I was so apoplectic about the Seahawks game, I couldn't take it in.
I didn't post game with you guys. I did post game solo. I kind of need to catch up with you a little bit on that, and then we'll turn our attention to this game in full and get into patron questions and super chat and all that. Anyway, I watched the Cardinals Vikings game on the flight home, among 17 other things I had time to watch because that friggin' flight is awful and long. But they were doing pretty well, man. They were moving the ball pretty well. They were running, like looking at them against the Vikings, which is a badass defense. And they made the Vikings defense not look so tough. And to think that the Seahawks just a week earlier just absolutely destroyed them. And one of the things that was a major difference was when the Vikings would rush Sam Darnold, they were not keeping their integrity in the rush lanes, which a lot of people don't. And Kyler Murray had like 50 yards rushing. That team, when he can do that, they're just different. And he had like 8 yards rushing against the Seahawks. I cannot stress how crazy it was, how well they played the run in that game and how well they rushed the passer and kept him from like one of the best pass rushing performances I've seen and how they did that. So hopefully they can repeat it. Hopefully Leonard Williams can keep on this like crazy tear that he's on. But before we start talking about this game in full, I have to know, like, you guys were watching that Jets game. It was friggin' bizarre. It was crazy. Evan, like, let me start with Jeff. Jeff, you talked about the trouble of watching that game. Where were you on that game? What's your takeaway from that game, if any?
My takeaway is that I can't take much more of Ryan Grubb. I'm getting to the point where it's just I'm pretty pissed off. That sequence down in the red zone I thought was so emblematic of what we've been watching the last month, where it seems like every pass and run situation is called backwards. And the fact that they had 8 plays down there or 9, and they threw 5 times, and twice at Sauce Gardner, who's the first down they get there, they threw a freaking fade route at Sauce Gardner. One of the worst play calls I've seen. They don't quarterback sneak. And sure, the defense was great, but that whole sequence made me so mad. And that was after the special teams, which basically turned us all into the Joker. If you weren't laughing like a maniac at that point or throwing something, I don't blame you. But that one sequence sent me over the edge. And then in that last drive, I thought they had such bizarre and bad play calling. And and they were so lucky there was the flag from the Jets. The Jets had 3 pretty devastating flags where they almost blew that too. And so again, to waste a performance that should have been a completely one-sided game, I was just so on edge. And it felt like, honestly, I think Josh said it. I felt this so much. It felt like that game took years off my life. And I was just so on edge for 3 hours. And I think most of it was just because the offense does these things that are so infuriating. It makes it hard to watch the game because there were some good moments and there were some things to be excited about. But I thought that red zone sequence summed up everything perfectly.
Evan?
Yeah, I mean, I co-sign all of Jeff's thoughts, but I'll take it in a little bit of a different angle. What happened to start the game, on special teams was one of the most improbable cluster of events to ever happen in the history of football, what feels like. But there was a text I think I sent you guys like in the first half. I was like, okay, everything's going wrong. But this looks like a really good football team, and really good football teams somehow figure out ways to win football games that they absolutely shouldn't win, right? Seattle went down what could have been 28-7, by the way.
Mm-hmm. If should have been wide open.
That's a wide
open. Good point. That should have been 28-7 before that pick six, right? Down 21 points. But Seattle's defense, I feel like, doesn't get like. The attention is rightfully like discriminatively like on Ryan Grubb for how pitiful that play calling was and sequencing all game long, but the defense held tight, right? That defense only gave up 14 points the entire game and was
7 of them was on a 27-yard drive.
Exactly.
One drive.
Exactly. So in that first half, my thought was, you know what? If we can stop fumbling on every play. Like our defense is an elite. I'm saying it. Our defense is an elite unit right now. It's literally an elite unit. They're playing at like an insane level right now. So I actually had hope in the first half. I was like, if we can reduce the errors, there's a chance Seattle gets back into this game. Aaron Rodgers is not the same player he used to be. And the Jets organization is a disaster. So I had a little bit of hope in the first half, but I mean, that's a game that like every Seahawks team from 2017 on loses, to be honest. And it just doesn't. Let me put it this way, guys, and I'm not articulating it well, but I have not been in a situation like that as a fan in a Seahawks game where it felt so, what would feel like imminently negative, like we are for sure going to lose the game. That was the first time in a long time where I was like, we're not out of this yet. Like we might actually still win this game. And look what happened.
Let me give you a number because you talked about it, Evan. You talked about the defense, how well it's been playing. Jeff, what defense is playing better than any defense in the NFL right now?
The Eagles,
right? I mean, hands down, everyone's talking about them. They're legit. They beat the Ravens, like amazing. Since week 9, the Eagles are number 1 in the NFL in percentage of drives that are ending in points for opponents. 25%. Only 1 out of every 4 drives is ending in points, okay? To give you a comparison relative, the worst defense over that time, the Raiders, are allowing points on 58% of drives.
Holy shit.
So it's not good. By the way, 49ers third worst, 48.7% of drives.
Defensive regression, baby. Bang, bang.
Okay, so Eagles number 1, 25%. You guys want to guess where the Seahawks are since week 9? Okay, you're right. They're ranked number 2. They're right behind the Eagles. What do you think their percentage is? Eagles are 25. What do you think the Seahawks are?
28.
Wait, wouldn't it go the other way or no?
No, it would be higher. He's right.
I see. 30.
Try 25.6.
Wow. I was going to say, I'm surprised they're not number 1.
So everybody's talking about the Eagles. I posted it this as well. Seahawks number 2 in the NFL in defensive points allowed. over that period. When you take out the return game, when you take out the interception returns, Seahawks are allowing 12 points a game since week 9.
Damn.
So, yeah, this defense is friggin' legit. I don't think there's any way you can slice it where this defense is not playing elite. The only thing I would say is a little bit, they're not getting a ton of turnovers. But other than that, they're doing pretty damn well. And it's nice, man. It's nice to have a defense that's playing this well. So
did you think coming into this year that they were even capable of playing at this level?
Yes.
Brian did.
Yes.
Brian
did think that.
Brian said they might be number 1. And I remember looking at him like he was nuts.
Well, I looked like a friggin' idiot for that for a lot of this season. So, who knows? But
I was hoping by the end of the year, this happened sooner than I would have guessed. But my take the whole offseason was, let's see how it goes. It's going to be rough. And then by the end of the year, I'm hoping we start to see something. This happened almost right after that Ernest Jones trade.
Mm-hmm.
And that's got to go down as
You're leading me to my next topic.
That's got to go, man, that guy is a stud.
He is a stud.
Okay.
We're going to pay him.
So, all right. Seahawks trades. Last few trades that they have made.
Mm-hmm.
Ernest Jones, Roy Robertson Harris, Leonard Williams. Right? What do you give each of those trades right now? What grade do you give each of those trades?
Ernest Jones, A++. Who misses that, 4th round pick? Nobody?
Not me.
Roy Robertson Jr., right?
Harris, yeah.
Harris.
I like Junior.
What did they give up again? Was it a 7th or something?
A 6th.
A 6th? B+, A-.
Uh-huh.
It's not a negative, obviously. And then Leonard Williams has got to be, with the way he's playing right now, it's got to be an A+, because he's playing at an all-pro level right now. You could have changed that compensation from a 2nd-round pick to a 1st-round pick, and I still think it would be an A with how he's playing.
Jeff, we were pretty critical of the comp for that. I'm just curious your grades. You can skip the Roy Robertson Harris. I think that's a very solid trade, but it's not groundbreaking.
Yeah, I think the process of the Leonard Williams trade was questionable, but the result is an A+.
Yeah.
Last year, if it played like he did last year, which was good, but not great, it would be a much different grade. But to get a great defensive player on the defensive line playing game-wrecking football, to get him for a 2nd-round pick and having to pay him, that's nothing. Those guys go for 2 first-round picks. So, sure, maybe the process is questionable, but the result is what matters here. And that's an A+ for me. He's the best player on the team right now, and he's playing. I was kind of going through this today, who would be an all-pro? I think he's outplaying Chris Jones right now. And I think it'd be him, and it would be maybe Cameron Hayward, or now Dexter Lawrence is out, but the dude's playing at an all-pro level. This is the best football he's ever played, so that's an A+ for me. Go ahead.
This is some John Schneider propaganda that we're putting out there right now.
Well, but we get this John Schneider in the offseason.
But that's kind of the thing I was getting at is we don't have time for this, but I would do it. If we went position group by position group and we compared the Seahawks position group that you have now and the one that you had last year, and you specifically just focus on defense, is there any position group where you wouldn't say that they are meaningfully better than they were a year ago?
We're not, or are not meaningfully better?
Is there any position group where they are not meaningfully better than they were a year ago? I'm talking specifically on defense.
Oh.
Linebackers, cornerbacks, edge players, defensive tackles, corners, safeties.
No.
I think all of those have taken a step forward.
I agree.
Massive steps.
I think massive steps.
You talk about Big Cat, but Julian Love is another guy that remember they extended him
they did
right when Mike McDonald got here, and they threw big money. I mean, relatively big money. I think it was $11-12 million a year, right? 3-year deal, 36.
It's not even a top 10 safety deal though.
That's what I'm saying. But it went from what were they paying him, like $4 to $5 million a year before or something? I think they doubled his salary as soon as Mike Macdonald got here. And there were kind of some like eyebrows raised around that.
Sure.
Especially considering the context of what they did with the safety position in the offseason, letting go of some, let me put it this way, fan favorites in some weird cult circles, but not a fan favorite over here of Mr. Jamal. So our overpriced, overpaid safeties are gone, and we have Julian Love literally playing, I think, at an all-pro level as well right now.
And the cool thing is, a lot of people focus on what you're doing for me now, and I think like the Quandre group, that was a big, like no one could defend the deep third. That was the, but what you want to do when you're analyzing a roster, I think a lot of people make this mistake. I'm not taking shots here, but you want to see what group is ascending. You're trying to project not just this year, but next year. Like Quandre, you can say was playing great at his job at one point, but you're saying, okay, this year or next year, you think Quandre Diggs is getting better. Julian Love is on the way up. They bought almost low on him, and he had his best game, in my opinion, of the season on Sunday, and I thought that was an all-pro performance. And so even if you loved Quandre Diggs, you've turned a group into a descending group into an ascending group, and Kobe Bryant's been a real surprise there. I had him as a surprise cut in the offseason at one point. So proving me wrong, but every position group, I think you can make a good case, is ascending.
Yeah. Part of the reason I think that's just really cool is I don't think it's just a John Schneider thing. I think it is John Schneider, who part of his offseason was hiring Mike Macdonald. That marriage is looking strong. They're figuring out, like, John's able to now give him Mike Macdonald the ingredients he needs to cook on defense. And that's nice to see, man. Like that should be encouraging for everybody. The more that they can do that. And this is way over my skis, and you guys can just pull me way back. But I really liked what I saw from Satawa Lamea in the first game against the Jets. He had some bad reps. He absolutely did. But I saw some glimpses, some flashes of good guard play that we just haven't friggin' seen all year. And so I am that thirsty for good guard play. I just am that, like, I saw that. I was like, oh, I'm for this guy now.
You know what his biggest green flag was on Sunday, Brian? What? I don't know if you caught this. Well, maybe you didn't because you were in the press box. And maybe you did see it on the TV, Jeff, but he was talking in the trenches.
Really?
Lamea was barking at some defensive players.
He was.
Really?
And let me tell you, I don't care if all pro play is not backing it up. You need that type of like shit talker. Like, we are going to roll over you. We are going to destroy. We're going to walk over you. Like, you know, we're going to beat you down type of mentality in the trenches to be successful. And I just feel like I cannot remember the last time I saw that from like any offensive lineman from that's a Seattle Seahawk, like in the history of my life, literally.
That was like Breno. Breno did a little bit of that.
Breno did a lot of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I texted you the other day, Brian. I'm like, I kind of liked what I saw from him too. But this is my PFF beef of the week. 29? What the hell are you talking about? Like, he had 4 or 5 blocks, including the key block on the game-winning drive. That was an absurdly bad grade for him. He had some assignment errors, absolutely, but that was way off. But again, I liked what I saw. I'm going to be a little caution here. We loved Oluwatimi's first game. In the last 2 games, he's come back to life. What happens with backup-level guys is Jarrell looked fine for 1 week. By week 3 or 4, we're like, this guy is not an NFL player at this point. Not saying I liked Lamea out of the draft. So he just stuck to me as like a solid guard in college, which is what I've been wanting on this team. I think there might be something there. I don't know his ceiling. I don't know his floor, but I'm eager to watch him play again. Oluwatimi's kind of fallen off. We can see he is kind of what we thought he was.
But wait a second. There's a difference because you're absolutely right. I think you're right to call us on Jarrell. I have an awesome short that Will Hart made of Evan freaking out about Mike Jarrell after the game against the Falcons. Is so good. But here's the thing. It's not just us. People that are unaffiliated with the Seahawks have been putting out clips of, wait a second, Nate Tice put out video and was like, this is the Seahawks guards are getting movement. Daniel Jeremiah was on with Brock and Salk this morning, and he was like, I was watching this and I was like, who's 63? Like, he's like, we're week 13 and I don't know who 63 is. And he's like, wait, I liked Satawa Lamea. I didn't know he was here. And like, other people that are not affiliated noticed him in that game. And it doesn't mean he's going to be great the whole way. But my general philosophy on assessing players that I really get interested in is, do you show me a ceiling of quality that is promising? And he flashed things in that game we just have not seen. And so doesn't mean everything's solved, but I'll take a little cotton ball sized bit of hope. I'll just hold on to that, as fragile as it is, because it's been a disaster, man. So like, let's go. Let's get a little Satawa Lamea.
We've watched a year and a half of Bradford and haven't seen a single one of those moments of hope. No. And we saw Christian Haynes show some things that I liked what I saw from Haynes in the preseason, but big difference going against second stringers versus first stringers. And when he's playing in the season, we haven't seen that either. And if you want to talk about a shit game, Laken Tomlinson was awful on Sunday. There was one play where there's a linebacker, and we were joking about it on text, where he's just like coming across the line. It was the most obvious block that an offensive lineman could make. And Laken gets out there and just completely, it would have been like a 12-yard play that turned into a 1-yard play. And he was awful. So I agree with you, Brian. So I'm very intrigued to watch him, because I texted you the other day when I saw some of the grades. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, I kind of liked him. And so you took it to another level, which is exciting.
Did I lose Jeff, or is it just
Jeff is gone? Jeff, replug your mic in or something similar.
I'm micing.
You're back. You're back.
What happened?
I don't know.
We don't know. Some Canadian thing.
What the?
We got the gist. You're excited about Satawa. So now he's just gone. He's just gonna go dark on us. Well, Evan, we got to get through some patron questions. We got to get through our predictions. Are you going to be turned into a pumpkin right at the hour?
Bro, I'm here.
Let's go.
I'm here for you.
Let's go. All right, good. Because I'm having too much fun to cut this off so fast. So let's do this. Let's get to our patron questions, since those folks wait every week for this opportunity. Just back. Look at, there he is. And then we were going to get to super chats. So I will not forget about the super chats. And then we will get into this game and predictions. So we got a little bit to go. All right. So first question in for this week. Where is it? I got to get to it. First question for this week comes from Hawks fan Matt Man. Evan, this is coming to you. Since the offense started off well this season, how much of their woes over the last few weeks do you think are attributable to defenses figuring Grubb out, or Grubb being unable to adjust?
I think it's definitely Grubb being unable to adjust, but I would challenge the notion that they started off super well. Would you guys agree with that?
There are some that would. Most would. I don't. I agree that it did start off pretty well. I think, but that's my opinion.
Jeff, are you in the same boat?
There were moments, like the New England game was really good offensively, but that was kind of Geno putting the team on his back. The Detroit game, they looked awesome on offense.
They did.
Mm-hmm. The Miami game, they were hitting a lot of deep shots early in the year. There was deep shots to DK in the New England game, in the Miami game, the Detroit game. There was a ton of deep shots. But the offensive line was kind of making things like that first half against Miami the first half against Denver was horrible. There was like a 2-quarter stretch against Miami. I can't remember the San Francisco game was pretty shit. So there were moments where you saw like them hitting the explosives a lot early in the year. And Ken Walker was putting up crazy touchdown numbers. That's really slowed down.
Yeah, I mean, to answer the Patreon person's question, like the reality is like there's been how many key moments, guys, has there been this season where this offense needed 1 yard?
Yeah.
1 yard. in like a pivotal moment to like change the outcome of the game or the trajectory or whatever. It feels like there's been like 4 or 5 times where Seattle was literally unable to obtain a yard. And Mike McDonald would go in the press conference afterwards and be like, if you can't get a yard, you don't deserve to win the football game. And it feels like this just continues to happen. And it feels like there's been no
all right, I've got to
progress here.
I got to get off my chest here. So Patrick Mahomes, when he first came into the league, what were he and Andy Reid known for? What were they doing? Him, Tyreek Hill, it was explosive plays, right? They were downfield, just massive chunk plays time and time and time again.
Yeah.
When they won a Super Bowl last year, what kind of offense were they, passing wise?
Short yardage, control the clock.
They were one of the highest rates of behind the line of scrimmage, short yardage throws. Does that happen because they don't want to do chunk plays anymore? No, it doesn't friggin' happen because of that. It happens because defenses play 2 deep safeties and say you're not going to have chunk plays. We're going to take that away. Guess what? What has happened to the Seahawks over the last part of the season? I put charts up to show it. The Seahawks are facing 75%, 73% specifically, zone coverage since the last few weeks of the year. Teams have abandoned man coverage because they know they can't cover the Seahawks in that, and they can't play against Geno that way. They've gone to more too high shell. And what do you need to do to counteract a too high shell?
Run the ball.
You need to be able to run the fucking football. And they can't do it. So here's the thing. I think if you want to criticize Ryan Grubb, and by the way, what does short yardage require?
Running the football.
Running the football. So if you want to criticize Ryan Grubb, you can say the run game specifically. I think it is completely overdone on Twitter, elsewhere, with everybody saying that the Grubb sucks overall, that he's been bad, Geno Smith is still number 2 in the NFL in passing yards per game. Seahawks have almost never been that prolific in passing. So that's not by accident. That's not because of game script. They haven't been behind all season and having to be playing catch up. They have been a good passing team with a terrible pass protecting offensive line. So I think the Grubb conversation has gotten way out of control. You included, Jeff. And I get it because it's been ugly, but I think it is a lot more about the fact that defenses are playing a very logical tactic against this team, and they haven't yet had the counter to it.
Yeah, that's been my problem, though. My problem is whenever they have to get into short yardage, they do the most obvious thing possible and bring everyone into the box and run up the middle. And the creativeness and the ability to get creative in the run game, I just haven't seen it. And that is an offensive line issue for sure. I'm sure if Grubb was in here, he'd be like, have you seen my guards? Have you seen my center?
Yeah.
But that's been my issue. I'm not criticizing the run pass calls and things like that. I think the ability to mix in play action and kind of play around your offensive line issues have not been good enough.
I am criticizing the run pass calls in the red zone last week.
Yeah, 100. Me too. I hated that. 100%. Because, by the way, Evan, they were running the ball well on that series, and then they get to the 4-yard line, and they throw a fade ball to DK Metcalf. I hated that. So it's not like I'm saying Grubb is like a beyond reproach, and he's been fantastic. But there are real issues. If you know the counter as an offensive coordinator to what you're seeing is to be able to run the ball, and you simply cannot do it, like, I don't know that there's some like perfect run call that's going to work behind that offensive line. And by the way, the tight ends have not been great in run blocking either. Pharaoh Brown's been a total anyway.
Bust. No, he's been a bust.
This is where like I get annoyed because we're all annoyed by watching this offense, and it all just turns out to be Ryan Grubb. And there are like Griff and Maddie have been very critical of Ryan Grubb. They do a lot of that, and they know their stuff pretty well. I think they also were Shane Waldron defenders. I think Shane Waldron's trash. So like there's all that out there. I'm telling you right now, I think the Seahawks are going to run the ball this week. against a very good run defense. And I think that if they don't do it this week, they're going to do it this season. And I think we're going to see a different type of offense when that happens. So if not, you have this now to come back to and make me look really stupid, which I conveniently give you opportunity to do all the time. All right, that was only one question. We got to move a little faster. Sorry, that's on me. Troy Fagan asks, this is for you, Jeff. There's been general praise for hiring of Leslie Frazier as an assistant head coach. If Mike McDonald wants to give Grubb a second season or JS makes it so regardless, what do you think of the idea of hiring an assistant head coach for offense to help Grubb crystallize what he wants to do with how he needs to call it in the NFL? Dream candidates for that role.
Yeah, that would be a great scenario. I think the one area of the staff they don't really have right now is a run game coordinator. And I think if they can find like a veteran run game coach to pair with Grubb and they can kind of mix and match that to kind of add some more scheme creativeness and help the run game, which I agree is the biggest issue with the offense right now. I would be okay with that. I would be okay if they brought in like a veteran mind to kind of help him tie the run and pass game together. And that's what they did. That's what Pete kind of did with Cable and Bevel. And he made two outside hires, but that kind of paired the thing together. So if they could find a veteran run game coordinator, I don't know who that is. I don't think like Mike McDaniel would come in as a run game coordinator. I think he'd want to be an offensive coordinator if he got fired. But I don't know who that is. There's a lot of trees that have good run games and there's a lot of trees that don't. But I don't know how many like veteran OC minds are available. OC is one of the harder prediction coaches to predict because it's either fired coaches who would want to be OCs themselves or quarterback coaches or running back coaches are getting promoted or fired head coaches. So I don't know how many names for you, but that would be a very logical next step if they said, okay, we like Grubb. We think something could help him with more experience. I would not hate that.
Yeah. Griff had a great post, by the way, yesterday, I think, of a bunch of offensive coordinator candidates. There's a lot of good names on that list. Video Game Sports had a super chat related to this. Says, please guys, just humor me for a second. Let's suppose Grubb gets let go at the end of the season. John Gruden said a couple weeks ago he wants to get back into coaching. Any chance you give him a call for the OC spot? I'm a flat no. Anybody different? Anyone want to make a case for John Gruden? Jeff?
I find John Gruden hilarious. Like he's one of my favorite like entertaining aspects. Like he just got hired by Barstool and he like does these videos every week. I find him hilarious. But no, like I don't think that's the guy you want. I don't think John Gruden's coming back as an offensive coordinator. I think he wants to be a head coach again. I think that's a pretty strong personality to bring in. But look, if you want to be like the veteran guy on his staff, like I would love to listen to him do press conferences. But I think he's more of a caricature than a guy I want calling plays at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. All right. Evan, Jason A says, special teams had a really bad day on Sunday and fumbles have been a repeated problem. Empirically, I like our special teams. I feel like our special teams have generally improved since week one. How do you feel about special teams and Jay Harbaugh's job security?
Yeah, I'm going to take I thought about this one a lot just because they obviously made the cut of Chenault this week. D. Williams is still on the roster, right? He hasn't been touched today.
As of today, okay. Yes.
As of today. I still don't really understand that, but I don't think – here's the deal, guys. Jay Harbaugh is not coaching these guys to, like, fumble the football. Like, at some point, you have to put ball security – that's like an execution issue to me, right? Like, we got rid of one of the guys – we maybe need to get rid of the second. You disagree with Brian? Like
I asked Jay Harbaugh that very question during training camp because they had Aesop Winston Jr. returning punts and they had D. Williams returning punts.
Sure.
And between the two of those, Aesop Winston had the best hands on the team. And so D. Williams was known as a dynamic returner in college. So I said, what's most important? And he said ball security. So in my mind, he made a choice that didn't match with what his words indicated. Like Aesop Winston is a much better hands player than D. Williams, but I think that that's backfired on them. Mm-hmm. Maybe they can still get Aesop Winston, who's on the practice squad for the Jets.
They can take him off of it, but I think the reality is they made a good decision this week, right? But I mean, it seems like quite the drop off from Larry Izzo. from years past, because that's something we got very like comfortably used to with the Pete Carroll era. Is like our special teams unit was always pretty good, right?
Pete really valued special teams.
He gave it a lot of practice time.
He did, and I know like Shanahan, like one of the knocks on him is he doesn't give a shit about it, and their special teams unit is a constant problem, but he doesn't care. It's not a part of his philosophy. I don't know where McDonald is on that. Brian, you'd probably know from being around him. But their attention to detail. Like I was like you, like everyone was going at Harbaugh last week, and I'm like, the dudes are dropping the ball. Like it's not. But the amount of times they've been like blocked on extra points, where like that Giants one, where like the other team had them studied, and they did that. There's been a lot of stuff like that, and like we always wondered for years, like why are they paying Nick Bellore a cap room? John Gilbert from Field Goals puts out a tweet on this. I think he's leading the league in special teams tackles this year. And it's like they gave up a bunch of those guys that were their core special teams players. And I don't know if McDonald's more in the Shanahan camp of I don't know how much he values it, but it's been an issue. If you ask Niners Grant or something, they kind of dunk on him about that. It's a constant issue for them.
Now, I will say this about special teams. I'm very upset Mike McDonald did not let Jason Myers punt last week. I was looking forward to that.
I don't think you should look forward to that. I do want to address something that's been coming up a bunch. If you guys feel differently, feel free to jump in. But I've seen people say, well, JSN wanted to be field stuff last week. Let him out there. Hell no. Like JSN is so much more valuable right now than being a punt returner, or like, I think that's a very bad idea. I think he's certainly capable, but I don't think that's a good idea. Then people are asking about Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett could be back there to catch, but he's not back there to do anything else. I think that's not a great idea either. And then there was someone else that people keep talking about. I'm trying to remember. Oh, Kenny McIntosh. Kenny McIntosh fumbled his first kickoff opportunity. He muffed his first one against the 49ers. So I don't know, man. I'm not what I'm rooting for as a Seahawks fan. I saw Zach Charbonnet returning kicks. I actually think Zach Charbonnet would be a good kick returner. I don't know about a punt returner. And then I hope that they actually that they sign somebody off a practice squad, like, or two guys.
That's been a little concerning to me that they haven't yet.
What's that?
I see someone asking about Cody White. Cody White's fine. His body type does not scream to me returner. Like I worry about ball security with him getting hit.
He's not
like
that
Derek
sudden.
Young. These long angular guys, they can get sawed off in half on returns. That's why I like Charbonnet. Charbonnet is not going to be someone who's going to, be easily like destroyed on a kick return. He should be able to protect the ball. But anyway, let's keep going. Old school Seahawk. This one's for you, Jeff. Oh, actually, this is Sam Brown. If it's at all possible for Mike McDonald to win Coach of the Year, what would the Seahawks need to do down the stretch to make it happen?
I think they'd have to go undefeated.
Yeah, at least.
I think they'd have to win. I think they'd have to win their last 5 games, so that would take them to what? 12 wins. I think that would take them to 12 wins, division title, probably the 3 seed, which they are currently. Yeah, I think they'd have to go undefeated down the stretch.
Because Minnesota and Green Bay and Detroit, I think all those coaches have a better case to be made for Coach of the Year.
Yeah, there's some people who are going to vote for Dan Quinn still.
Dan Quinn, Washington, another
Sean
one.
Payton. Sean Payton's gotten some love there.
Washington's kind of like.
I know.
Washington's kind of skidding, though, it feels like.
It is, but it's still impressive what they've done with that roster.
Yeah, and Jane Daniels looked healthy. I don't know if they were up 28-0 in like 2 minutes last week, and they got a pretty light schedule. I think we'll see if Cliff's teams always fall off a cliff, but yeah, I think they'd have to jump a lot. I think Kevin O'Connell, Dan Campbell are the 2 betting favorites right now. Mm-hmm. It would take a lot to jump, though, because the Vikings were like a 6-win projected team. They're already at 10, I think.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Evan, Old School Seahawk says, what are your thoughts on Mike's answer today regarding the QB sneak situation? If you did not hear his answer, he was asked if Geno Smith has the ability at the line of scrimmage to audible to a QB sneak, and Mike McDonald said something along the lines of, I'm not going to go into that based off, formations or schemes or stuff like that. He didn't want to give anything away. I don't know if you made anything of that.
No, I didn't watch it, but I'm comfortable with that answer. Like he shouldn't. I don't think he should give a clear answer there.
Yeah. So old school. I don't know if there's something else you were getting at. I didn't think there was much to that answer, but if you have some follow up, let me know.
How many sneaks have they done this year?
They did one against 49ers that worked, but they got a bad spot, and then they like not done it since for whatever reason.
Is that the only time they've done it all year?
No, early in the year they were doing it, and they're doing it well. Like a lot of their fourth downs that they were converting, which is where like the team looked so buttoned up during that phase. They were doing it very well. Then I don't know, they've got into this run up the middle thing on short yardage over the last month where the last 4 games they've needed 1 yard every game and they've screwed it up. Mm-hmm. They haven't really done it other than that Niners game where they actually did convert. It looked like to me. That was one thing they did well. I don't know why they've gone away from that.
I'm doing my Hawk Blogger Mornings tomorrow is going to be on Seahawks and short yardage, and I'm going to go through, and we're going to go through short yardage for this team, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. So
that sounds like a really enjoyable time. Good content. Very fun.
I focus on the most important things. All right. So Amy Holmes, this one's for you, Evan. She says, week 1 of the season with a questionable O-line, Gino was throwing at just over 2.5 seconds with lots of checkdowns and hot read options. Yeah. Last week, I believe I heard his average was 3.3 seconds to throw, and it looked like most routes were long developing plays. Clearly, having an improved O-line allows for more time to make bigger throws, but why do you think we aren't including quick plays as much or just keep the ball moving?
Jeff, I'm going to throw that one to you.
I think right now the problem they're having, and Brian put out the picture, is because of the way the Seahawks are being defended, they're putting 8 guys in coverage. And there was a lot of shots last week where all 3 receivers on routes were being double teamed. So when that's the case, there is no quick throws available. And right now, a lot of their tight ends are being held back to block. And I think because of their offensive line issues, they've been put in this situation where they just don't have that because they can't run to move the defense around. And I think because of how they're being defended with teams blitzing less, which allows for a quick game, and you being with so many guys back, I think that's why. I think that would try to use the running back more. I think they used Walker really well earlier on. But right now, there's just so many shots where they're just sending a million guys back and nothing's available quick.
All right, Evan, I'm coming back to you. This is John Hurlbutt says, in the last matchup between the Seahawks and Cardinals, Trey McBride had a breakout performance as a key target for the Arizona offense. How do you think the Seahawks defense will adjust to limit his impact in this game, and what changes might we see in their coverage schemes compared to the previous game?
That's a good question. I'm gonna answer that question in a roundabout sort of way. If that's the only positive that the Arizona Cardinals offense, comes out of Sunday with is Trey McBride, has like 123 yards or whatever, I'm okay with that. Like to me, that's a positive outcome. What gets you into a very dangerous situation is if they're able to establish James Conner and actually, put the accelerator on the run game, then I think we have a real problem. Because the way you get Kyler Murray in trouble is you pressure him, you push him inside the pocket, and he starts to squirm, and he starts making really uncomfortable decisions. And we saw it a lot in Seattle a couple of weeks ago. So my answer for you isn't good, but I'm comfortable with that being the outcome because I don't think it leads to like a very positive result for them.
All right, 2 more. Chris Bailey for you, Jeff. Who's been the bigger surprise, Kobe Bryant or Tyrese Knight? Whose consistent play has been more important to the recent success of the defense?
I think I'm going to give 2 different answers. I think Kobe Bryant's been the more surprising player. He seemed like a guy who was kind of like a man without a position. He wasn't great at nickel. They couldn't really figure out how to use him. He was an outside corner at Cincinnati, and then he moved to safety, and it seemed like they had too many numbers there the last few years. And then Jarek Reed was drafted, and it's like, what's going to happen? And then they brought in Kayvon Wallace again. They brought in 2 safeties in the offseason. So it's like, okay, where does the position lie? And his play has been not only better than I would have ever guessed, but it's been stable. Like, there's not a lot of up and downs. He's been reliable. He's good in covers. The last play of the game, he throws a blitz at Aaron Rodgers and crushes him. That stuff I just haven't seen him do. So But more important to the defense, I think Tyrese Knight. We saw the linebacker play and what was happening when it wasn't sound, and it basically broke apart. The front and the back were not connecting because that Detroit game was a really bad linebacker game. There were some other ones where it just basically gave Mike Macdonald's defense no chance at working, both in run defense and in coverage. And since they've gotten rid of Dodson, their defense at the linebacker level, look, Knight's made some rookie mistakes. He's guessed on a couple plays, but I think we've seen just from the highs and the lows of this defense how important the linebacker spot is to make this thing work. And really, since those two guys have gone in, it's been a drastic improvement.
All right, last question for you, Evan. This comes from Sovereign Alex. Are any of our position section coaches showing something that you think will get them an OC or DC interview in 2025? I'll expand this question. If the Seahawks finish the season playing defense at this level, do you think Adam Dirty gets any head coach nibbles?
It's where my mind went, but I'm gonna say no, actually, because he's not calling plays, right? Mm-hmm. It's Mike Macdonald that's calling plays, and Aiden Dirty, he was a defensive line coach, right, for the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
There might be some credibility towards why the defensive line is playing so stiff, especially in the run game. But the edge guys seem to have kind of fallen off a cliff as of recently. But Dirt could be a possible candidate, but I don't think a head coaching position. Jeff?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think because the year's been up and down, and I think because of the recent spike, I think a lot of that will just be accumulated to Macdonald.
Yeah.
And I don't think the thing with Dirty's is like there's no one talking about him. And he has a really good personality. If you watch like the team mic'd up, like he's got a great energy about him, and his press conferences are interesting, but he's really under the radar nationally. Like most people probably couldn't even name the defensive coordinator. So I think it takes a friend or something, or maybe a former colleague getting an interview or someone connection he has, because he's just not on any radar right now. And it's a pretty wide open head coaching field. So I would be pretty surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he's probably another year. The case I'd make for AD, first of all, I think the world of the guy. I think he's got the it factor to be a head coach. I think he will be sooner than we think. If you look around the league at all of Mike Macdonald's disciples, they're all doing pretty damn well. And so if that continues, I think you're going to see people want his offspring. Not just little Jack, but his schematic offspring. So, yeah, we'll see. I think it's probably too early, but that's one. I think Jake Peetz is a guy. Again, that's the one that I'm wondering if he'll get OC nibbles next year from around the league. He's has a pretty good track record. All right. So that was all the Patreon questions. Thank you for everyone at patreon.com/hawkblogger. If you haven't given the show a like and click subscribe, please do. You can join as a patron and get to ask us questions each and every week. Just like those folks did. We've got a few to get through here on Super Chats. This is Nell God says, for all three of you, yes or no only, extend Geno. Yes or no only. Jeff, yes or no? Yes or no? Jeff says no.
Stop it.
Not yet.
Oh.
Well, no, but next year, do you extend him?
Depends how he plays next year. I play out the contract.
Okay,
Ooh.
Evan.
No, I think you extend him. I'd pay him like up to $35 million a year.
I have a deeper answer to this, but if it's just a yes or no.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
Okay, I went through the draft order today and I looked at the bottom 16 teams. I couldn't find a single team that I think Geno would have a market for. I think a lot of the market is either speaking for. The only team I could find was the Jets, and there's awkwardness there. So I really like Geno. I think they want to keep him around. The Seahawks have no alternative answers. I would play out the contract. Again, it's much easier for me to say that from the Schneider side, but if that wasn't the case, if Geno had a market, I would extend him.
I'm a yes. I'm a soft yes, softer than you might think. Nasir, been a member for a couple of months, says, do you see a chance to get Talanoa Hufanga? This is my kind of fantasy free agent signing. I would love him in Seattle. 25 years old, all pro safety, coming off an injury, buy low, pair him with Julian Love. Play him, like his energy next to Devin Witherspoon and Ernest Jones, like Byron Murphy, like I would love it. I just don't think they're going to spend that kind of money.
It's definitely a buy low because if you've been scouting the 49ers fan base perception of this guy, like he's had a lot of ups and downs coming back from injury. And
he has, but it's been injury. It's all been injury ups and downs, not like level of play. So we'll see. Richie Brash, been a member for 7 months, says, cheers to not fumbling any kickoffs this Sunday. Oh, knock on wood. Is Judge Brian retired? Happy holidays. Well, we need People's Court applicants. So I gotta reopen the applicant thing to get it up. But I've Judge Brian's ready to come back out at any time. Joey Walker says, Ernest Jones is Mike McDonald's version of the Marshawn trade for Pete. Dude is a cornerstone piece for years. The thing I like about that comparison that I think is underrated is Marshawn was a tone setter and a leader for that locker room. I think Ernest Jones is much more than just a good player. I think he's a tone setter as well. So interesting comparison. Brian Masterson says, if Seattle makes the playoffs, who would you most want them to face in the first round, and how far do you think they could make it? Anybody?
I'm pulling up the current playoff standings.
Can we get the 49ers to make it so we could face them and beat them in the playoffs? That'd be fun.
I'd rather them not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think I'd rather that too.
Let me answer this question in a different way, guys.
Washington?
Yeah, well, that'd be my answer.
Let me answer this in a different way. If the Seahawks make the playoffs, I don't think there's a single team in the NFC that I don't think we don't have a chance to win against.
You think we got a chance to beat any team?
Yeah, I really do. With the way this defense is playing.
I don't. Not until the offense changes.
Give this defense an opportunity in the playoffs.
I think it could be close against almost any team.
But that's what I'm saying. They have the chance to win.
I don't think those two things are the same. Like the Cardinals had a chance to win against the Seahawks last time, but they didn't really. Like the Seahawks dominated that game. It was only 16-6, and they were barely up most of that game. But you could play that game 100 times. I think the Seahawks win 100 times, like 90, 95 times.
Let's say the Seahawks meet the Lions in the playoffs 100 times. How many games does Seattle win?
The Lions in particular, I'd say like 15.
Yeah, I was going to say like 10.
Ooh, I'm a little more optimistic than you guys are.
I would like to see the Seahawks defense against that Lions offense now. But I don't know if I want to see the offense against that defense.
Yeah, see, I think the Philly matchup scares me more than the Lions because of how well-rounded they are. I think the Lions, because of their defense, isn't that good. It wouldn't kill us as much, but Philly with Jalen Carter against our guards, ugh. Because they have good corners.
I'm willing to see what type of deal Ryan Grubb could make with the Devil in like a divisional round game. I really am.
I'm not like I'm in this weird place where I really am happy with how things are going. I'm also not that high on the Seahawks right now. Like I love the direction of the defense. I love watching them play. I think we're going to make progress on offense. I love all that stuff. I just don't think the Seahawks are that good. Like,
so what's holding you back?
Guys, they barely beat the 49ers. Like that was a last second drive. Gino, drove them like the field. They barely beat the Cardinals. They barely beat the Jets. And there was a lot of things that weren't so great in all of those games, but we're acting like because it's been so much better defensively that all of a sudden they're world beaters. They've won 3 in a row. Those are all like almost flip of a coin kind of games in a lot of ways. So I believe in point differential, and I think you have to win convincingly in some ways or have efficiency and repeatability. And offensively, I think this is one of the worst offenses in football right now. So they have to be able to be at least threatening to score every third drive. Right now, it feels like every fourth or fifth, So, yeah, they got a ways to go on offense.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I have so much faith in their defense, almost none in their offense.
Yeah,
I hope we get the opportunity to see.
I do too.
Yeah,
100%.
Because they could surprise us. They really could.
100%. John Hurlbut says, good evening, fellas. Go Hawks. Thank you, John. He also gives away 5 Hawk Blogger memberships. Thank you for your generosity, John. If you get one of these, consider giving one. Moshimas says, what's more likely on Sunday? Seahawks defense continues their turnover streak, or Seahawks offense gets 112 plus yards rushing?
112 plus rushing yards. I don't think that's very likely.
I'm 100% going with the rushing yards.
You are?
Yeah. That's my bold prediction this week. The Seahawks are going to break out on the ground.
I'm going to go with the turnover streak.
I'm going with the turnover streak as well. Brian, I have DraftKings on my phone. I know it's not legal in Washington. Do you want me to make this bet for you?
No, I don't bet on my team. I don't do it. It's bad juju. I can't have those mixed emotions.
I'm the same way.
All right. Well, so we've gone through all those questions, all those super chats. Let's talk about this game and what's going to actually happen in it. And it's kind of crazy, guys. It's a 6-6 Cardinals team, and yet they have so much respect around the league because they've been in almost every game. They've beaten some pretty good teams. Their losses are generally to like all playoff teams. What do you make of this Cardinals team? Like, we just beat them 16-6, made them look really bad on offense. Jeff, like, you watch a lot of football. Like, where do you think this Cardinals team ranks in the NFL?
They're like a 12 to 14 level team. Like, their defense is coached really well. Like, I thought their defense was going to be total ass. Like, their players on paper, I thought this is going to be by far the worst defense in the league. And they started out that way. But they have a really good coaching staff that gets the most out of their players. And offensively, what Evan said is right. If you can take away their run game, they're a totally different team. When they run the ball, it opens up all levels of their offense. And when they have Kyler going with the Connor going, and they haven't really even tapped into Marvin Harrison Jr. yet. It's been kind of a bust this year. Mm-hmm. That's where they get scary and hard to defend. But it's just weird that we're playing a team we played 2 weeks ago. And how often do teams play twice in 3 weeks or twice in? And so it's like, what's going to be different this time around? How do you adjust to that? Who knows? It's so weird. And so I don't think Seattle will have the amount of success they had last time. But the Cardinals are a solid team that's well coached, but their talent level is not that high defensively.
Evan, do you get a feel? I mean, you're in Arizona. I'm guessing you don't talk to many Cardinals fans because there's not really a lot of them. Like, do you get a feel in Arizona how they're feeling about that team?
They're very excited. They're very excited. Yeah, their second year of this new coaching staff, I think they've outperformed expectations of, from initial hire. I think the way they started the season, there was real hope that I think they could continue to win the NFC West, and Kyler had been playing well for the most part. But I think, well, let me put it this way. I think it's going to be a sold out game on Sunday. I think it's going to be a very chaotic atmosphere. And I know a lot of people going to the game personally, folks that I have not seen who are Cardinals fans who have not gone to games in years past. So I think there's a level of enthusiasm in the air that hasn't been there historically. But sort of to add on to what Jeff said here, I'll just say this. Like, when I think of the Arizona Cardinals, I think of James Conner. Like he's the vet in that building. Not only is like he the focal point of their offense, like he's literally the most consistent, reliable part of their, I think, entire football team. He's culturally like beloved there. He's the first guy in, last guy out. Like, everybody looks to him. Kyler Murray looks to him. Kyler Murray's not the leader of that football team. James Conner is the leader of that football team. He's really like center of them, like from a personnel perspective and an execution perspective on Sundays. So I think, not to boil this down super simply, but if you can shut down James Conner again, even do something remotely close to what you did in Seattle 2 weeks ago, I think you win this football game. I really think you do. So stop James Conner, and I think it's reasonable to have like a high degree of confidence that Seattle is going to limit them on Sunday.
Watch out for Trey Benson, guys, in this. I asked Mike McDonald about that today because I think the Seahawks have proven that you cannot run the ball down their throats right now, the way they're playing. Yeah. But you saw the Jets start to take Breece Hall to the edge. All like 3/4 of their running plays were outside the tackles. And he gained about 5 yards a carry. It wasn't like they were dominating, but they were running pretty effectively. There was a lot of 2nd and 6s. Trey Benson, the rookie, Jeff, you and I knew him coming out of college, Florida State, faster than James Conner. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets more run in this one and that they attack the edges, and we'll see if that works for them or not. But, yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. This division was Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan's for a while, right? Offensive masterminds. And now, don't know if this is going to be how it lasts, but it really feels like this whole, even if you include the Rams, the thing that's defined the NFC West this year is defense. Like the Seahawks defense, the Cardinals defense, even the 49ers defense at times, like some of their best players have been on that side of the ball. Some of their most consistent play has been on that side of the ball. And the Rams certainly, with their young defensive line. So it's a defensive matchup. Like, I don't think most people are going to talk about it that way, but that's what this game is. And then the question becomes, which defense do you think has a better chance to shut down the opposing offense? I 100% agree with what you said, Jeff. They are really well coached. They've been scheming things up really well. There's only so far schemes get you, though. And so, like, that's the thing I would say in the Seahawks' favor is I think the Seahawks physically are better than the Cardinals. The Seahawks defense is physically and schematically better than the Cardinals offense. I think the Seahawks, the Cardinals defense is only schematically better, like advantaged over the Seahawks offense. And so I would put my money that the Seahawks playmakers are going to make some plays and that the Seahawks defense is going to also make some plays. And then it's just a matter of if you can contain Kyler Murray and his explosive, scrambles like they did so well last time. If they can do those things, Evan, to your point, the Cardinals are 1-5 this year when James Conner has less than 100 yards from scrimmage. 1-5. So, yeah, he's a pretty big bellwether for their fortunes. All right. Anything you guys want to say before we get into predictions? Jeff, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, you guys covered it. That's what happened in the last game. The Seahawks won the game because Leonard Williams was the best player on the field, and Devin Witherspoon was an animal. And that caused that individual effort from Witherspoon causes the pick six, and that's what swings the game. The Cardinals don't have a lot of guys like that. Like Budda Baker's been really, really good for them. I think he's been their best player on defense. Yeah. But they don't have a lot of Pro Bowl, All-Pro. I don't even think the Seahawks have some borderline Pro Bowl kind of guys this year between Witherspoon and Woolen at times looks like a Pro Bowler, but then he'll forget where he is half the time. The Cardinals don't have a lot of guys like that. And I think I'm just curious how the coaches respond because the whole talk in the first matchup, the Cardinals are going to get into these heavy personnel packages and how does Seattle defend that? That NFL Live did a full 20-minute segment on that before the first game. And then they had a 0% success rate, and then that storyline went away. And so that's been the talk about the nerds for the Cardinals. They have these incredible heavy personnel, and Seattle just bowled that over, starting with Leonard Williams. So I think the game, again, comes down to that matchup, and that's going to determine really who wins this game. And that's so well said. I mean, that's what I'm talking about is Leonard Williams going to be less able to dominate Evan Brown in this game? Is Evan Brown going to be stronger than he was 2 weeks ago?
I don't buy that. Will they put more attention on Leonard Williams? Yeah. Will that free up other players? Yeah. And those guys will have physical advantages. Is there a chance that the Cardinals are going to run a cover zero blitz that gets home? Yes. Is there a chance they're going to run that and Geno's going to burn the hell out of them? Yeah. So that's why it does come down to who has the best players a lot of the time. And as much as the Cardinals, I have a ton of respect for how they've been coached all year. I'll start off. I'm predicting the Seahawks to win this one. I predicted them to lose to the Jets. I'm super happy that my streak was broken. I still think that was a pretty good prediction. I think the Jets should have beaten the Seahawks. I think for all the reasons I thought, they had advantages over Seattle. Super glad it didn't turn out that was the way this game finished. I think the Seahawks are the better team. I really do. And I think they have the better talent. And I think they're going to have a run game for the first time really since week 1, the second half of week 1 against the Broncos. I think the run game is going to show up. I think the Seahawks win this game 27-17. Jeff, we'll go with you next.
This is such a coin flip game for me. I'm struggling with this one. I'm going to take the Cardinals. I don't feel good about it. I think the Seahawks defensively will do enough to win the game. I just think right now I don't have faith in the Seahawks offense. They need to run the ball to win this game. And if Brian, what you're saying happens, I will gladly say my predictions was wrong. But until I see them do it, until I see them win in short yardage, I think eventually their offense is going to catch up with them. I think it's pretty incredible they've won 3 in a row with this offense. I think just the pressure on the Cardinals, I think they've lost 3 in a row now, or 2 in a row. I think it's 2 in a row.
2 in a row.
And this would be the 3rd in a row. I think just because they've played so closely, it just feels like they're going to split. I feel like it's going to be a close game. I think it can go either way. But I think the Seahawks offensive issues, unfortunately, catch up with them in this game.
All right. Did you give us a final score?
I will give you – it's a kite game. I'm going to say 27-24 Arizona.
It's a lot of points for the Cards. I don't like that. Evan.
You guys are making me do the tiebreaker. I think Seattle wins this football game, and I think Ryan Grubb has his game of the season.
Let's go. Prediction, man.
I think Seattle walks into Arizona and has their most effective running game to date. I'm going with you on that, Brian. I think K9 has over 100 rushing yards. I think Geno Smith picks up 30 or 40 on the ground as well. I think Seattle does a very effective job at stopping James Conner. I do think Kyler will probably have a big game. These Cardinals, they've been criticized for their second half adjustments. Their offensive coordinator, Mike Petzel, I think is his name. He's been criticized kind of throughout. What was that?
Close. Not even close.
What's his name?
I think it's Drew Petzing.
Drew Petzing? Did I say Mike Petzel?
Yeah. Mike Pence and
whatever his face is.
Not even close. I loved it.
He's been criticized with second half adjustments though, and their inability to do it. I think they've gotten more conservative late in games. This Cardinals offense has, and I think if they can stop them like early in the first half and slow them down, their chances of like really turning it on in the second half, I'm not super confident in for the Cardinals. So I'm just not super confident in that coaching staff on the offensive side of the football. And I think Seattle takes this one. I'm going to go 30 I think they're scoring 30 points, 30-20.
I'm going to have another call out here. I want to see Geno Smith have a big game. I think Geno's made some incredible throws over the last month, but he's been too skittish in the red zone. I said I wouldn't extend him. People are going to take that the wrong way. I'm saying I don't think there's a need to. I think I like him at his current number. I want to see Geno come out and have one of those FU games. I want to see that dominate in the red zone, look great, don't make a stupid turnover. If they do that, that will go a long way for me.
All right, I got to ask, I know we're wrapping here, we're late, but I talked about who has the best which side of the ball, which unit's the best overall in the NFC West. Talk about that. I think you guys both said the Seahawks defense is probably best, right? So that assumes that in this game, that's the best unit of the 4 that are in this game. I think you probably agree that the Seahawks offense is probably the worst of the 4, right? So that's kind of this interesting thing. If I asked you who are the 3 best players in this game, who would you say? But either side of the ball, on either team, who are the 3 right now? Who are the 3 best players playing the best right now?
I think it's 3 defensive players. I think it's Budda Baker. No specific order, by the way. Budda Baker, okay. Spoon, and I think it's Big Cat.
Yeah.
Leonard Williams has to be one of them.
He's number one. He's number one. Yeah. Leonard Williams 1. I'd have Spoon 2, and I'd probably have Connor 3rd.
Really? Over Budda?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's my kind of what I was getting at. I think even if you look at who are the best players in this game, I think 2 of the 3 are probably going to be Seahawks. And if you went to the top 5 to 7, I think JSN starts getting in that conversation for sure, but ahead of any of the Cardinals receivers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You know, I think the Seahawks corners, I think the Seahawks, Julian Love, like there's a lot of players that I would put ahead of the players on the Cardinals. And so I just think, you know, look, Cardinals absolutely should be favored in this game. It's a home game. They're a good team, 100%. But Seahawks have no reason to walk into this game feeling like they're overmatched. They just shouldn't. Mm-hmm. Can I show you guys something cool?
Do it.
All right. So can you see this?
That's
jeez.
Badass.
This is a Seahawks themed boot made by JK Boots, custom made. All right. And some lucky Seahawk fan who uses code HawkBlogger to buy a pair of JK Boots will get that made just for their feet. So all you got to do is use code HawkBlogger at jkboots.com. Gets you 10% off, gets you a chance to win that pair of boots. You'll be the only person in the world that has them. I can't wear those. They don't fit my feet. They're just for showing. They'll make a custom pair just for you. And you help donate a pair to the Wildland Firefighters Foundation. So a Northwest firefighter gets a pair of boots to protect Northwest forests. So friggin' amazing. I just got those yesterday. I think they're pretty sweet. So just wanted to make sure everyone got a chance to see them. All right. Evan, you guys, I doubt you ever wear boots in Arizona. You guys probably are all flip-flops, like, right?
Dude, I don't own a pair of boots.
No, there's no way you own a pair of boots.
That was part of my sell today. That was part of my sell to move to Arizona.
No, I don't wear boots.
No. God, that is hilarious. All right, guys. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. Over an hour and a half, just catching up. It was great. I will see you on Saturday, Evan. We'll do some damage. Jeff, we will FaceTime you and find a way to bring you into the experience.
Are we drinking?
I don't know, man. I got to work the next day, dude.
Okay, got it.
We'll see. It depends on how I'm feeling. We'll see. I'm susceptible to peer pressure, but we'll have fun. We'll definitely have a good time. Especially, it depends. Josh thought I asked his girlfriend out this morning. I said that she should come out Saturday night. Point is, we're trying to get her to come out with us. Josh is convinced that she'd be better off with his dad at home than with us because. Like the idea of her coming and meeting his internet friends is not something he's super excited about. I think I get it.
Don't be nervous.
I mean, my wife got to meet you guys last year at Thanksgiving, and I don't think she's recovered from that. So
that explains a lot.
The impression I made on your grandma alone. Like, come on.
All right, everybody. Give the show a like, click subscribe. Find Evan Hill on Blue Sky and on Twitter at Evan Hill HB. Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me at HawkBlogger on all those places. This has been episode 343 of Real Hawk Talk. Take care. Have a great night. Hey, folks. This is Brian Nemhauser. Thanks for listening to the show. Hope you enjoyed it. want you to know that Real Hawk Talk is available on all major podcast platforms. Go ahead and subscribe, have all podcasts delivered directly to your phone after each and every show, and then go ahead and leave us a 5-star review. It helps us out, gets more people to the show. Then, if you haven't already done it, go to patreon.com/hawkblogger and subscribe for just $5 a month. Gets you immediate access to our Slack channel. Join hundreds of folks in that community to talk Seahawks about wins, losses, and all things in between. Not to mention, become eligible to win giveaways for Seahawks tickets and get to ask questions of the Real Hawk Talk crew every week on the show. Finally, if you haven't gone to hawkblogger.com recently, head on over. Tail the Tape morning after articles are there every week. Hoping to see you there. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for supporting the show. Go Hawks.